Friends, there are certain unitary features in Indian Constitution. They are single constitution, single citizenship, single election commission, single judiciary. Then you have many things like that. Article 171, Article 3, Article 352, Article 356, Article 360, the governor. All these things show that India is a unitary system. So just one by one, we can discuss them. Because earlier we have discussed that India is a federation, all the federal features are there in Indian Constitution. But there are many features which show that there are many unitary features in Indian Constitution. Remember, under certain circumstances, we find that the states are the states are made subordinate to the central government. The states have to work in accordance with the directions and guidelines of the central government. If the states are working in accordance with the directions and guidelines of the central government, sorry to say, it is a unitary system, my friends. It violates the basic purpose. It violates the basic purpose of federal structure. Now, one by one, we can discuss the unitary features of Indian Constitution. Firstly, single constitution. You compare United States and Australian federal polity with that of India. In Australia and in America, the states are having their own independent constitutions within the framework of the central constitution or the constitution of the nation. In India, we are having only one constitution, that is the Constitution of India, that is applicable both to the union and the states. That is why we have to say that India is a unitary system. Then comes the citizenship. In almost all federal countries, it may be Australia, Canada, Switzerland, or America, the citizens of those countries enjoy dual citizenship. The citizenship of the nation and the citizenship of the state to which they belong. For example, the citizen of America and the citizen of New Jersey. The citizen of Switzerland, the citizen of Bern, Ward, or Zurich. But in India, everyone is an Indian citizen. There is no system of dual citizenship. There is only one citizenship and all the people are citizens of India. Then comes the concept of Article 3. To me, Article 3 is just against the basic principle of federation. Article 3 of the Indian Constitution empowers the Parliament of India to alter the borders of any state, to divide any state, to rename or change the name of any state without the consent of the concerned state. The views may be taken, but consent is not necessary when it comes to division of Andhra Pradesh into Andhra and Telangana. We clearly find that without the consent of the Andhra Assembly, Andhra Pradesh was divided into Andhra and Telangana under Article 3 of the Constitution. That is why we have to say that it violates the federal feature and it creates a unitary government in India. The state governments, the states don't have any autonomy over their territory. Its borders, its territory can be changed by union government anytime under Article 3 of the Indian Constitution. It is not the case in Australia and America. You have to remember that. Neither in Australia nor in America these things takes place. That is why they are pure federations. Then you have Article 356. I think in the class we have discussed about the misuse of Article 356 in paper 2. Article 356 has been misused or used for political purposes than for constitutional purposes more than 80 times in India. Many times we have to say. Under Article 356 of the Constitution, the popularly elected state government can be dismissed by the central government. I am not going to discuss it at length because the provisions are entirely different, the process is entirely different. The government of a particular state is elected by the people of that state for a period of 5 years. But the central government is empowered to dismiss that government on the grounds that it is not working in accordance with the Constitution or it has failed to maintain law and order in the state. It receives a report from the governor or otherwise. The article clearly says on the receipt of the report of the governor or otherwise. Remember, my friends, dismissing a popularly elected state government is against the concept of federalism. It is a concept of unitary system. That is why we have to say that in India you have a unitary system. Then comes single judiciary. In America you have federal courts and state courts, different. But for India, you have only one judicial system for the entire nation. The states don't have their own judicial setup. They have to work in accordance with the Constitution of India, no doubt. But the judicial system is also the national system. According to that, they have to work. It is not in accordance with the provisions of federation, my friends. Look at America. Look at Australia. They have their own judicial setup. Then coming to the 7th schedule, that is a division of powers. When I was discussing the division of powers, I said there is union list, state list, concurrent list, residuary powers. Union list, national importance, state list, local importance, concurrent list for both, and residuary powers for the center. But my friends, seriously look at the division of powers. The central government is more powerful in India. See, first of all, the subjects of national importance are given to the central government. Then in concurrent list, it has supremacy. When it comes to residuary powers, they are with it. Not only that, the subjects that are there in the state list, on that also the central government is empowered to make laws. Of course, when Article 356 is there, it does. Article 356, there won't be state government. It makes the laws for the state. It passes the budget of the state when there is a governor's rule in that particular state, or president's rule, you may call it. But there are certain provisions wherein in 7th schedule under Article 249, Article 250, 251 and 252, the union government is empowered to make the laws on the subjects that are listed in the state list. See, Article 249, Article 250, Article 251, Article 252 deals with these things. I think one example is more than sufficient for you. One example in the sense wherein you can think of Article 249. Article 249 we can take. Under Article 249, Rajya Sabha can pass a resolution with two-thirds majority and shift the subject from state list to central list. In the sense, the state loses one of its subjects. It's not the case in America. It is not the case in Australia. It is not the case in other countries. In those countries, either the central government powers or the state governments are clearly written down and the remaining powers are with the other government. That is not the case with us, my friends. That is a tragedy with us. That is a tragedy with us. Then Article 356, National Emergency. When national emergency is declared under Article 356 of the Indian Constitution, India is constitutionally converted into a unitary system. That is what Dr. Ambedkar says. India is a unitary system during war and emergencies. It is a federation during peace in normal times. Article 352 of the Constitution changes the polity of the nation itself. It changes the federal polity into a unitary polity. That is why we have to say that there is a unitary system. Then the governor, under Article 155 of the Constitution, the governor is appointed. Sorry. Under Article 155, the governor is appointed. But who appoints the governor? To whom he belongs? The governor is appointed by the central government. He is head, constitutional head of a particular state. But remember, he doesn't know the language, the culture, the geography, the environment, the political culture of that state. A man who don't know the ABCD of a particular state is the constitutional head of that state. Only in a unitary system you find such things. In America, the governor of the state is elected by the people of that state only. He is not nominated or appointed by the central government. That is why we have to say that India is a unitary system. Then Article 360, financial emergency. When financial emergency is declared, and even in, I think under Article 256 also, if I am right, Article 256, the expenses of the government or state governments are controlled or restricted by the central government under certain circumstances. It shows that in financial matters also the states are not independent. They are controlled by the central government. Even in case of grants in aid, the central government gives financial assistance to the states to take up certain activities. When grants in aid concept comes, the central government controls the expenses of the state government. It shows that the state governments are not free. That is why it is a unitary system. Then comes Article 312, All India Services. The IAS, IPS people are appointed by, even IFS, IES, IMS, these people are appointed by the center. They are appointed by the center, but paid and controlled by the state governments. Okay, this part is okay. But when it comes to irregularities, or misbehavior or anything like that of these officers, all India service officers, the states cannot initiate disciplinary action against them. He is a district police head or an administrative head. He is the secretary of a particular department. On him, the state government is not authorized to take disciplinary action. It doesn't happen in a federation. That is why we have to say that India is a unitary system. Then Article 171 of the Constitution. Under Article 171 of the Constitution, the Union Parliament is authorized to decide whether a particular state should have upper house or lower or not. It can create or abolish the upper house of a particular state. It is once again It is once again a unitary feature of Indian polity. I think it will be too lengthy for you to go on discussing these things. So, simply, in simple language, I have given certain examples for you. There are many like that. I can enlist them. The election commission, for example. There is only one election commission for the entire nation. It conducts the election from Gram Panchayat, the President of India. Say, for example, on a particular day, election to a particular Gram Panchayat is declared. The date is fixed. If there is a fair in that village on that day, whether the people have to attend the fair or they have to attend the election. Think of it. The states are not authorized to decide the election, dates of election of their legislative assembly or council or Jilla Panchayat, Taluka Panchayat or Gram Panchayat. We are dependent on the central government for that also. Then there are certain other things. For example, a bill passed by the state government cannot become law immediately. No doubt the governor has to give his assent. Under certain circumstances, the governor can send the bill to the president for his consideration. In the sense, the bill that is passed by the state legislature is not going to be implemented immediately if it is referred to the President of India. After getting the consent from the President of India, after getting the approval from the President of India, the bill is implemented. So, my friends, on these things, we can say that though India is having both union and unitary and federal features, there are certain things which make it is more unitary, less federal. That is why I think we have a famous statement of K.C. Weir. Wherein he says, India is a quasi-federal system. India is a quasi-federal system. He says so because to him, it is a unitary state with subsidiary federal features rather than a federal state with subsidiary unitary features. Remember, in America, in Australia, in Canada, in Switzerland, in no situation or circumstance, the federal structure or the federal polity or the federal nature of the constitution changes. But in India, many times, it may be Article 352, Article 356, Article 360 or Article 171, Article 3 or the appointment of the governor or the other cases. The federal polity is changed to unitary system. That is why we have to agree with K.C. Weir, wherein he says that India is a quasi-federal system. India is a quasi-federal system. But there is another man who describes Indian federalism as a cooperative federalism. That is Austin. G. Austin says that Indian federalism is cooperative federalism. But the father of the Indian Constitution, earlier I quoted him, it is a unitary system during war and emergencies, and it is a federation during peace and normal times. The father of the Constitution, Dr. Ambedkar, says the system is both. The Indian political system is both unitary as well as federal according to the requirements of time and circumstances. It is both according to the father of the Constitution, according to the requirements of time and circumstances. Thank you, my friends.